very austere landscape, isn't it, this time of year, when you're emerging from winter into spring, and it just looks like the whole place has been burned. Which, of course, in some instances it has been, of course, which is controversial in itself. Then again, of course, this being Sutherland, people belong in these glens. You can't really go on a walk in any wild place in Sutherland and not mention the clearances and what happened. Here it came quite late, I understand. I was doing a bit of digging before I came out. And the whole thing with clearing people off the land, tenant farmers, crofters, people who were supposed to have been looked after by their landlords, absentee landlords in a large number of cases. In Sutherland, it began, I think, in the early 19th century. The Countess and later the Duke of Sutherland wanted to clear people off the land because cattle, sheep, it was more profitable. And it wasn't done in any kind, caring fashion. It was brutal. People were moved with little or no warning. Houses were torched. Crops were left in the fields. People were sort of sent packing down to the coast. Up north, in Strathalladale, up near Kinbrace, up that way, people, I think a lot of the population went down to Helmsdale and tried to sort of get work on the coast. People who couldn't, people emigrated. And Glencalvie, which is this glen that we've been walking up, beyond that building, I imagine, sort of the grassy areas that are further down, it came quite late to here. I think they would have spent, people who lived here, it was 18 families, some 90 people in total. And they would have seen what was going on across Sutherland. And there's a suggestion that, I mean, of course they'd know that it was going to happen to them eventually. There was an effort in 1842, but it finally happened in 1845. Was it May? And by that point, there was a national media, and there was a Times correspondent who came along and reported on it. Reportage in exactly the same way that we have now. And you can read his account of what happened, and it's horrendous. And these people left with, left it with dignity and without protest by the sounds of it. 18 families, 90 something people, lots of children. They had nowhere to go. There was no cottages, for them anywhere else in the locality. So they went down to a churchyard, which is a few miles down there towards Ardgate, and had to spend the night there. And they've etched on the window, Glencal people was in the churchyard here, May 1845, and it's still there. Living history in a way. It's still there. So it's a church built by Thomas Telford. It's still there, etched on the window. Incredible thing to actually stand there and be connected to history. Because when you see these burnt out croft houses, these sheilings, these dilapidated places, it feels very old because they're in ruins. But to actually go to a church building which looks, looks new, not new like modern glass and everything, but it doesn't look ancient. It makes you realise actually it wasn't that long ago. 170 years ago? That's not long, really. His correspondent, he sums it up, just saying it was a very cruel and unfeeling act. I mean, they were paid a pittance for their stock, and their furniture was given to their neighbours, who I think some of them hadn't been moved on for whatever reason, and other people that lived around here, their furniture was dispersed. I think they got to keep their bedding. And then that's it. You're just told, go. Where would you go? It's only understandable that people go down to the church, finds safety in a sacred place, but that wasn't going to protect them in the long run. And apparently there's very little or no record about what did happen to them. A lot of them would have probably gone south. People were going to the cities at that point, down to Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee. People working, being swallowed up by industry, no doubt. And of course a lot of people emigrated. Were paid to emigrate. A lot of people. So I think some people given money which they were expected to use to emigrate, so just get rid of them. It's just awful. And that's why now Sutherland looks as it does, munched to death by sheep, deer, and there's nobody living up here anymore. And of course that's the dichotomy really, isn't it? Because it's a wild, wild place now, and it's valuable in another way. It did have numbers of people, and if those people were here now, you'd be fighting for their rights to stay here. But now it's this wild place, and it's valuable in it for other reasons. And that's what people are fighting for now, against development and peat, plantations in peat, and as a carbon store and all that sort of stuff. So it's funny, isn't it, how things move on in a relatively short period of time.